It's season 5, everybody!
It's season 5. It's season 5. Anyways, sorry. What?
Welcome
What's up?
to the Monday Night Brawl Season 5 Adventure Time. Ned and Russell take on the world, taking down Adventure Time one episode at a time.
Yeah, what Ned said. Welcome, everybody. I am excited to be here. This is, as Ned said, Season 5. This is the Never Ending Adventure podcast. We're talking about Finn the Human today, the very first episode of that season. And, Ned, we're getting in the farm world. We're looking at, the future of Adventure Time and expanding on the multiverse. And so much is going on. And a lot of it's a little confusing for me as the first, this is the first time I've ever seen the show. But I am very excited.
Good. I mean, we saw it at the end of Season 4. We wrapped that up. We broke up in the Enchiridion and we opened the portal to the multiverse and had Bucco explain to us what this whole concept of multiverse was. And it just really, it paves the way for the rest of Adventure Time in the way that you were like, yeah, if it's just adventure after adventure in this world, you know, could you do that many seasons of that? So kind of expanding it into a non-Rick and Morty-esque, there's not going to be a Finn world where there's thousands of Finns.
Yeah.
But in a way that they can expand upon at least implications of different timelines and a lot of what ifs. And this whole Finn the Human episode is definitely the what if kind of episode, very similar to like the Marvel series, you know, like what would happen if the Lich didn't exist.
It's a reality shift entirely. It's not at all like a different universe is formed for Farm World. It seems like it's just a reality shift toward this new reality that exists because Finn wished that that the Lich had never existed. Post the Lich wishing for the extinction of all life, right? So it's just a creation of Finn in a new spot in the world that would have been had the Lich never been on that earth in the first place.
Yeah, well, so this is where it starts getting deep, and we're diving in. We're not even going to do like a walkthrough to start the episode and the breakdown. This is where I think this episode gets crazy, and I was really trying to think about it from a cosmic perspective here. So this time room, inside the time room exists this realm outside of like time and space that Finn and Jake are not affected by the Lich's wish when the Lich's wishes that all life doesn't exist. So I would imagine that if Finn and Jake just turned around and left the time room, that they would cease to exist.
Totally.
Also,
if they had not gotten in the room in time for the Lich to make his wish, they would have been too late. It just the Lich's wish. Jeez, why is that so hard to say?
The Lich's wish. Lich.
Yeah, it would have totally wiped out Finn and Jake, and that would have been the end of the show. And I guess the Lich would have won, though. And I will just go ahead and say, like a little preface for this episode, I have watched next episodes. Or the next episode for the next recording that we're going to do. And, you know, it is interesting. We find out about the monkey's paw concept and the Lich's wish kind of would have had to have a negative, like would have had to have had something negative happen or like some sort of an adverse effect to him wishing that everybody didn't exist if Finn and Jake hadn't been in the portal. So I wonder what that would have been. That's like a whole another question for next episode, I guess. But
my assumption, because it fits in with this episode, my assumption is that the Lich's wish, when like you got me saying it wrong. The Lich's wish. He, when as soon as he says it, he disappears, right? So in essence, one, that's because like Billy doesn't exist per se anymore, so he can't really embody, even though Billy's dead.
He's a ghost
wearing
the body of the
ghost
dead guy
wearing a dead guy. That's just nasty jazz. Nasty.
Yeah.
But I assume that means had Finn and Jake left the time room and eliminated all other variables, it would have gone back to what the Lich said was the beginning of time. And it was like, before time, there was nothing. And before there was nothing, there was monsters. And that's what we got into a few episodes ago. Go back and listen to it. I dived way too deep into my theory about kind of a mangled mash of non-conscious monsters that all of a sudden become conscious. And that's kind of what starts a universal consciousness of multiverses. And this is
not something that we've come across yet in the show, correct? This is in the future of the show. We're going to start talking about this, and we're going to hear the Lich talk about it. Well, Ned, let's talk about what we do know. Can you give me a little review or a little rundown of the multiverse according to Booko and the hologram that we learned from the Lich that episode last season?
Yes, there was a breakdown last season where it was essentially there was like multiple universes in a pool of universes, and that portals could connect them. Wormholes could be created, or there could be magic items that opened portals to those universes. And as soon as a universe was connected, their temporal planes would become synchronized. And so that eliminates the entire time passes differently in different universes theory, so that like you could go into a different universe, be there for 10 minutes and come back, and it would be 10 minutes later in your universe.
If they're linked.
If they're as they remain linked, for sure.
So what's interesting, kind of what you're saying, it's dimensions that can, like multiple different dimensions that contain universes within them, or contain a universe within each dimension. I thought this was really fascinating, right? Because it brings me to thinking about lumpy space, and I just could not stop myself from Googling lumpy space and seeing what the fan Wikipedia page has to say, or I don't know what it the wiki or whatever it's called,
fandom page.
Yeah, so basically, like lumpy space is a different dimension entirely from Fins altogether. It's its own separate thing. So it's a lumpy universe within the lumpy dimension or whatever that has some sort of a portal that is connecting Fins' universe or his dimension and that of lumpy space. So instead of us dealing in this episode, or really in all of Adventure Time, with multiple overlapping dimensions in one universe, which is kind of like what we got from the Real You episode with the 4D sword, right? That's a 4-dimensional sword in the 3-dimensional world that is in Fins' world. So instead of that sort of a concept, we're working with multiple dimensions containing their own universe. Technically, as I just said, there are multiple dimensions in each dimension's universe, which is, it's so annoyingly, it's not complex. It's just like wordy. And we know this because of the Real You, but for the sake of plot, don't think about the multiple dimensions that are within each dimension's universe. Just think of, there's a bunch of different dimensions, and each of those dimensions has a universe within it.
Yeah. This is not one of those multiversal theories where every instance of everything that could possibly happen creates infinite universes. It's way
that's
more
many worlds theory. Yeah, we're not going to get into many worlds theory. And I actually have a whole bunch of notes about that for next episode.
Yeah, I think they purposefully don't go on that, because in this one, very much, if you think about it, the Lich wishes that no life existed. So in that brief, I say moment in time, but they're in a timeless room, so it really doesn't matter. It creates like 2 Schrodinger's boxes, pretty much. And it kind of all depends on what Finn and Jake's wish are. Like, it creates that Schrodinger's box of like the Lich's possible universe where life may exist or life may not exist. Yeah. Really dependent on what Finn and Jake's wishes are. So when Finn wishes that the Lich never existed, essentially that resets everything. If the Lich, hypothetically speaking, only, metaphysically existed in Finn's universe, the world of Oo, not what that universe is, then all other universes would have hypothetically gone back to exactly how they would have played out. And then, again, depending on what Jake's wish was, which we'll get to that one next week. It's kind of like that weird thing again. There was a very brief moment of time where there was a Schrodinger's box of the Lich's wish was pending based on what Finn and Jake's wishes were.
And that is true. But what is not true is that there weren't 2 different realities created or two different universes created for each of those situations. It's just one singular reality that is far more.
That's like Finn's Finn's timeline without the Lich. And because Jake has a wish, had he made a wish for a sandwich, he would have eaten his sandwich and then phased away and become the just like normal dog in Finn's universe. He would have kind of like, again, not existed and because his timeline changed.
Which it's super fascinating because in this episode, what we're getting is the multiverse without the Lich, right? Because of Finn's wish. And this is essentially Earth. I mean, it's Earth as Earth has ever been, but without the mushroom war having ever occurred because the bomb didn't hit the Earth because the Ice King was able to stop it, which is kind of incredible to think about. And there's a lot of little things that I had questions about, and essentially,
there's a couple of inconsistencies here. So I want to hear your thoughts on.
I think
what
they can all be proved.
Lined up.
I think they can all line up. It just depends on how you're looking at it, and maybe I'm missing something that you're thinking about. But I was like, oh, so that implies that the Lich or something influenced by the Lich stopped Ice King from stopping the bomb in our current reality, which is not necessarily true. As we learned about in the next episode, because of the way that the Lich is created. The Lich is created because of the bomb. And so it's not that the Lich existed prior to the Mushroom War, unless the Lich's existence comes in and out of reality or in and out of Earth, like throughout the timeline of all of Earth, right? And so this is just a new iteration of the Lich because of the Mushroom War. And so the timeline is all kind of adjusted, which is why I also think the fact that Marceline met Ice King prior to the bomb or prior to the Mushroom War in this reality.
That was my qualm. And that was one thing I really wanted to like dig into this week was if, what we had seen from the Simon and Marcy episode last season, where you kind of get the whole like Ice King helped her get through this like war-torn era. And in this episode, old Marcy, 1,000-year-old non-vampire Marcy, which is why she ages, because she's half human and half demon. That's why she can stay alive for 1,000 years, but she's old as dirt. She was like, he was a really good friend and he was a sweet man, and I've been defending him and the crown for thousands of years. It was kind of like it leads to the suggestion that there must have been some sort of war going on prior to that one bomb getting dropped, if he was taking care of her before that bomb dropped. You know what I mean?
In my opinion, again, and I think I'm going to this is kind of me making up my own canon in a sense. Maybe my house canon, because we've done that before.
Yeah.
Is that the Lich's existence isn't necessarily created only because of the bomb drop, but in other scenarios, the Lich has existed and has created some sort of a butterfly-esque effect that allowed Marceline, the half demon, to meet with the Ice King prior to the bomb dropping, prior to the Mushroom War. So it just changed their timelines a little bit in this new reality because the Lich had affected something way in the past in my personal house canon. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. Maybe there's a better explanation for this. I do think that Marceline's not a vampire. That's for sure, right? Marceline is just a half
We'll
demon.
get into the Stakes miniseries, and that's also, if the Mushroom War and the Lich never existed as in the original universe, there would not have been vampires, thus there would not have been Marceline the Vampire Queen. So that is a very good consistency that they stick with this whole new like shifting reality thing.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating that they describe the bomb. What is it? Oh gosh, I'm trying to find my notes, bud. Essentially, they described the bomb as like it was going to bathe the Earth in mutagenic acid or something like that, or fumes or something. And that's the explanation for the crazy Earth that we have in
that is
Adventure Time. It's kind of cool.
In a canon, the mutations that happened because of the original bomb dropping is what caused there to be magic and talking animals and bubblegum people and all that kind of thing. So,
but it's really not all that crazy given the reality that is Earth without that bomb going off. We have the Enchiridion, we have power and magic that we're seeing through Ice and Snow, through Simon Petrikov, and then you have the magical crown just in general. Like the reality that is Adventure Time isn't crazy. It's not a crazy stretch. It's just that plus added like mutagenic horror. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's just a land bathed in that.
And I read a great, breakdown of it online that somebody was like, 80% of what else Adventure Time shoves into their canon, it has still happened. There's still elementals. There's still the Ice King's crown. That's nothing that the Lich inherently ever affected. So in this world, well, I think it might be like season 6 or 7, we realized that there's a version of Billy in this farm world that is named Bobby. And I think Bobby has the Enchiridion still. So like the Enchiridion still exists. There's still, and then there's hints of it too in this episode with the fact that we have Choose Bruce, we have Marceline, we have Jake the dog. Honestly, it's not a sentient Jake the dog or not a
we
talking Jake the dog.
Yeah.
I've got another thought about that we'll get into later too.
Yeah, mutagenic horror. But what is Bobby's thing? Did Bobby, the hero, did he fight a deer or something? What would he have thought?
We'll get into that discussion when we he fought a hummingbird. He fought some weeds in the garden.
He protected the bees.
But no, I love that this is where your mind has gone in this episode because it was hard for me. And there's two concepts in Adventure Time that always throw me off. It's this whole Finn wished the Lich never existed, but you can see the bomb still drops. And as we kind of see a little bit through next week, it's an open door for another Lich. Probably not literally the same Lich. That's what I'm thinking. It's like the evilness that was the Lich is through this mutagenic like bomb stuff, but it wasn't the actual Lich itself. So it's certainly the monkey's paw of
his wish, and there's a multiple of monkey's paws from his wish, but that is the big one. Is that joke's on you. You kind of created the Lich anyways in this reality. It hadn't existed prior to you doing what you just did.
But that almost the farm world evilness it looks like, and it is changed a little bit in later episodes, but it looks like essentially the end of the world per se is caused, and Finn is now the evil Ice King per se in this weird alternate timeline. The Lich doesn't exist, but he's the reason the bomb dropped. He's the reason that everybody else that wasn't frozen in ice is going to be mutated.
Oh, totally. Well, man, it's just so crazy. I do want to give a shout out to Simon Petrikov, the hero of Earth for 1,000 years. He gave his life. He stopped the bomb. Totally saved the planet. Though it is so funny to me that Marceline's just like, well, like the crown kind of was mourning its loss of its host, and so it decided to spawn magic that froze the Earth for 400 years, which... Is that worse than the bomb going off? I mean, you kind of just killed everybody. Everybody dies in that scenario.
If we want to get into my last topic, you know what? I'm going to give us a break before we get into my topic because it kind of leads into that theory of what you're saying of like, is it really worse? What's the deal with this farm world of why it is the way it is? And I've got some theories behind that.
I just want to say that is my tops. My tops is Simon Petrikov, the Ice King, sacrificing himself for all of Earth. Like, that's bomb, dude. That's awesome. And it's a shame that the bomb still goes off.
It's literally bomb.
Yeah, I just think it's so funny that like the consequence is still that they have an ice age for 400 years, which could not have been good for the humanity or for all of humanity. But
no,
he tried.
That's kind of the explanation on why Farm World is somewhat shoved back into what seems like a serfdom, like medieval style society, rather than being like
skyscrapers.
And because like it was modern day or at least World War II level society.
Yeah, that's interesting.
When Vaughn came off,
Finn's just like, no, dude, like magic's fake. He doesn't even believe it in this episode. He's just, what did he say? His dad believes that prophets of old used it for cheap tricks to control people and get babes, like 10 or 12 babes each.
Like 10 to 12 babes each. I like the literalness there too. But
yeah.
Well, before we go to our break, I feel like because it was such a short part of this episode, and it will be the greater part of next episode, is I wanted at least talk about Prismo, because Prismo is my lovely, and can guarantee you he will be next week.
And I think he was the last episode of season 4 too, wasn't he?
Maybe so. It's just because like Prismo is prime time. Prismo's up there with like BMO for me, like on like top characters.
He's like in your top 3 cool guys, would you say?
Yeah. Like, dude, you're like in my top 3 cool guys. But
man. Yeah, but tell me about Prismo. Why do you like him so much?
Well, I think just the fact that it's the same aspect that comes in with Cosmic Owl and Future. It's these cosmic beings like have such like a personable way about them. And I love that Adventure Time just writes Prismo as like, he's not upset that he's like alone in his room or anything. He's not like bummed out. He's not bitter about it, but he's also not like godlike. He's just talking to people like normal people. And
he's like, kind of just chilling.
That guy? He was just nasty.
Nasty jazz. He's just chilling, man. It's interesting. He grants the wish of the Lich and totally isn't phased. He doesn't care. It's totally that Tom Bombadil thing where it's like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, there's going to be people living eventually anyways. I'm here in my time room, just totally just hanging out. It doesn't affect me in any way. What did they say? Bucco called it the quasi-corporeal dwelling place, the time room, which is outside of time, which is, it's kind of wild, man.
Yeah, I can't even remember my thoughts about quasi-corporeal, but I had some thoughts last time about it. But it's so interesting that like Prismo, with that kind of knowledge, you think you would either become hyper nihilistic or just completely non-sympathetic, and that's not the way Prismo is. And I think I just like appreciate that in that realm, that he's this ultimate quasi-corporeal cosmic being, and he's just like, yeah, man, come hang out. Like, what do you want to do?
And he's voiced by Camille Nanjiani, which is great, which I do appreciate that. My issue with Prismo in this episode is that he uses what probably is the worst logic. If you ever find yourself using this excuse, it's the worst logic to go down. It's basically Jake calls him out for saying, hey, that was our buddy Billy. Like, don't, call him Nasty Jazz. And then Prismo says, oh, sorry about that. I got a bunch of nasty friends. My uncle was nasty. I'm basically honorary nasty. If you ever find yourself using that excuse, going down that logic for something, you're probably in the wrong. Just be aware. You're probably in the wrong. So Prismo, I didn't appreciate that. Everything else that I see from Prismo in this episode, and especially the next episode, I really love. I really enjoy his character.
Yes, and I feel like it only gets better. The start of season 6, it's kind of reintroducing this, and this storyline specifically will come up again in a time travel-esque way. So just letting you know, it's like, and Prismo's like still like super chill, but like also a genius in the way of like constructing time-bending plots, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm a little scared about, I was reading through the wiki for the next episode, and the way that they explain what happens at the end of the next episode, I'm a little timid or a little nervous about the way that Adventure Time is going to go about these potential 2 new realities or something that are formed, because there is crossover with Farmworld in the future. I personally, my personal house canon is I choose not to accept that. And I'm just like, no, there's one reality that doesn't make sense. And we can talk about it tomorrow, because I have not studied up on it, but or not tomorrow, when we next record.
It's not necessarily that they're coexistent, but if there were to be an aspect of like time travel then you have to also think it exists. Farm World exists at a specific point in time around when Finn made the wish and unmade the wish, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that comes up again.
It's interesting, and the explanation
Trust
on
me,
the wiki is all about like, oh well, when Jake was in there, they were both technically, anyways, doesn't matter.
There's probably not a way to do this way of doing it. I mean, same with Rick and Morty. There's not a way to do it where there's zero paradoxes. You're going to have some paradoxes at some point in time. And I think just again,
I mean, Rick and Morty's issue is that they have the many worlds theory. So they're like, well, we have a central finite curve of known universes. They have to do that. Otherwise, you would have literally like every iteration of Rick and Morty that is just ever so slightly like one that likes blue and one that likes green, but otherwise they're the exact same being. Yeah. And that's the issue.
Did you ever see Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No, dude, I need to. It's still
Everything Everywhere All at Once does a really great job of explaining multi-world theory in a way that it makes sense, that they can essentially tap into worlds that are close to their finite curve. So like their original reality, you can jump to things as if a few things changed, or if you did this and not this, if you married your wife or didn't marry your wife.
Okay.
But if you jump further and further, you're more likely to break your mind. You're more likely to shatter your consciousness if you go too far off and try to tap into a version of yourself that's too far off of your finite curve. So it was a really great way of explaining that.
Have you ever watched Click?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's go to a commercial. Let's go to a commercial.
We'll go to a commercial. We'll take a little break, though. Is your universe in a state of cosmic flux? Have you accidentally torn a hole in the space-time continuum, leaving behind a trail of paradoxical pandemonium? Fear not, fellow adventurers, for the time reversal multiversal megasonic cleanup crew is here to rescue your reality from the brink of cosmic catastrophe. Our crew of expert time twisters and interdimensional janitors specialize in restoring order in your timelines that have gone topsy-turvy. Whether you've collided with your alternate self, unleashed a horde of unruly lumps, or created a splintered reality due to your Enchiridion misadventures, we've got the skills and tools to set things right. Imagine a crew of skilled heroes, led by the time-traveling hero, Gerald the Cleaner, armed with quantum brooms, paradox-absorbing sponges, and reality-stabilizing vacuum cleaners. With a swish of a broom and a well-timed floop of a duster, our team will swoop in, reverse the ripples, tidy up alternate dimensions, and make your reality sparkly like the crystal dimension. And don't worry about any wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. We've got it all under control. So if your realities become a bit globbed up, your parallel universe selves are throwing a multiversal shindig, or your cosmic mix-ups have created more messes than you can shake a snail at, trust the time reversal multiversal megasonic cleanup crew to bring balance back to your world's quote-unquote S. Call 1-800-CLEAN YO SHIT UP to schedule your cleanup across the time and space today.
Yeehaw! Welcome to Farm World, y'all. We're getting back into this here podcast. I'm so excited to have you guys. I hope you're doing well.
I'll tell you that, man. I'm Finn Merton. Finn Merton's in the Farm World.
Phil Merton, dude, he's got a dog. He's got a literal dog in this episode. Normally they got that Jake the dog fella who's all talking and stretching and stuff like Luffy from One Piece. There you go. I did it. I said One Piece in this episode.
Oh, it's still being referenced.
No, this is a different character. This is Russell from Farm World, but can't keep it up. No, man, this is so fun. I like it because it's a little bit of a reset without a full reset. Like, we know we're not going to leave the land of Boo. That's not gone. This is just a momentary check out Farm World. Here we are. Let's explore what Earth would have been like without having the lich's bomb or the bomb going off and creating the lich and whatnot, which is a really unique and creative way to go about exploring a different reality entirely, which made me really excited to get into this episode and notice, little differences in Finn. What would Finn have been like had the bomb not ever gone off and he would have had a normal upbringing with a normal-ish family and a normal dog?
And normal's a little loose. as well, obviously. But
yeah,
like,
there's some weird stuff going on. The Destiny Gang is bullying his father. I don't know what's up with that. That seems a little silly.
Yeah, it's like I've read even some things about Farm World specifically in this like episode where it's a little like boring, and I think maybe it's supposed to be of like if the world's a lot like less magical of a place. It's Finn's a little less of a hero. He's a little, I wouldn't call it like skittish per se, because he still does go up to the castle to fight Big D. You know, he's still like, he is still the hero Finn, which I think is a consistency, but it does seem like a little bit of that, you know, I guess the childlike wonder and adventuring and heroicness is gone because he's just kind of a normal son of a farmer at the end of the day.
He does, and you know, Allie pointed this out to me. He is stealing a crown that is not rightfully his. Would he have done that in the normal reality? Would he have gone and taken the crown from somebody else? He is doing it to help his family. Well, really more than anything, he's doing it selfishly because he doesn't want to get rid of Bartram, which is probably just part of living in this world where you're bartering and trading for things. I just thought that was really an interesting point. It's like, is this something Finn would do? Are all these actions that the Farm World Finn is doing actual Finn decisions, or is it because his upbringing has been totally changed that he's doing things unlike how Finn would normally do them?
Yeah, it's weird, man. I don't know. I also just don't like Farm World Finn that much either. So
okay, what do you have against Farm World Finn? Is it his nose? Is it his arm?
I mean, yeah, the nose is a little bit. I think the arm is the best part, and I've got more to say about that coming soon.
Yeah,
it's just a little bit. I mean, kind of exactly what you said. It's the fact that I don't like that he nicknamed his donkey Barbar. It just sounds childish.
Don't? No, what?
Not at all. I like Bartram. Dude. I don't like the Barbar aspect of it.
I think Bartram's
I don't like
name.
the fact that he has Jake, Barbar. But he does not like. I feel like he doesn't like interact with Jake at all. So that Jake's there, but there's not. He is. But you think that there would have been maybe like a boy, and like they could have made it a little sweeter between him and the dog. And then I don't know. He just seems very. You kind of hit the hammer on the head. He seems very like one-tracked mind and selfish a little bit.
Yeah,
he takes the crown for
just
himself.
A touch.
He puts on the crown. He
but he has good intentions. He's trying to help his family, right? He's trying to put on the crown in order to maybe if magic happens to be real, help his family.
There's a real world Finn aspect of like, even when Marceline, you know, comes out with the gun, she's like, you can't do this. You know, real world Finn probably would have been like, oh, I get that, you know, but I'm trying to save my family, but like, I get what you're doing. And he totally brushes that aside. Totally brushes like, she's like, don't put the crown on, it's evil. He's like, yeah, but my family, and like, yeah, we would have all done that. I get that.
Well, in the city of Thebes, does Finn steal right away? I'm pretty sure he doesn't steal right away, right? In the city of Thebes.
No, he tries to get into the tower that was, you could only enter if you haven't stolen. Right. And he realized he didn't even realize that he had stolen. So he held off for the longest time.
So it seems like maybe he's quit to steal in this world because his morals are slightly different. He's not perceived, and I wonder if he's not perceived by everybody else around him as a hero, and so maybe that has not led him down a hero's path.
Mm-hmm. And I think you pretty much nailed it. There is a concept coming up in the show called the Catalyst Comet, and I still have of the things in Adventure Time that I'm the least like well versed on is like how deep all the theories of this go. But in this episode, when you actually see the world freeze over, you see a comet fly by. And then in this universe, the Catalyst Comet never hit the Earth. So for my fans out there, in essence, Finn can be a hero, but he's not like Catalyst Comet level hero. And that's kind of a big concept for the show. I can probably say about that much without it being like a spoiler drop at all.
Yeah. Okay. No, I like that. It makes me really curious about the comet in the future.
Yeah, it goes back to Shoko, the ghost from the Creeps, and
oh, whoa.
Yeah, it gets really deep into it. So, and that will play into, like, remember we had this conversation for this episode when we kind of get into some more like Catalyst, Comet, Orgulorg stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm dropping bombs of like
dude,
craziness on you.
I was just trying to think of like, what is your Catalyst comment? I personally really like Haley's comment. That's kind of probably my Catalyst comment if I had to think of one.
My Catalyst comment was probably, and the Catalyst comment is something of like essence of bringing change to the universe, bringing change to a world. So like, yeah, okay. Spoiler drop. The Catalyst comet concept is like every 1,000 years, the Catalyst comet hits the Earth and brings change, like change for the better or for the worse.
Every 1,000 years?
Well, every 1,000 years that there is it is the catalyst of evolution per se. So something happens with the comet in a way that is a changing factor for,
and it didn't hit,
because of the lack of the lich and the world being frozen, and et cetera, et cetera. So
interesting.
That's why I do think that this version of Finn is not the same, like, I don't know how to put it, but the same, like, heroic, epic Finn. We just kind of get normal Finn. Yeah, totally.
Man, it is so interesting to me how, I don't know about you, but when Marceline, or when Finn steals the crown and Marceline's standing there next to the dead body of the Ice King, and the Ice King starts yelling at her, I was like, man, the voice actor for Ice King is crushing it. I don't know why. It just felt like a really good performance of like, get the crown, Marceline. I loved that.
I love that they did Tom Kenny with his Ice King voice, not with his Simon Petrikov voice. So it's kind of like he's gone crazy even in his dead state, because he's been wearing the crown on his dead body for thousands of years. So he's still the same crazy. He's like, get the crown, Marceline.
Yeah, Marceline's like, I know you're not really talking to me. I know these voices are just in my head, but all right, fine.
Well, she's his Gunter in essence in this reality,
That's interesting. Well, it leads Finn in the town, right? He takes the crown and it goes to try and pawn it off.
Goes to Junktown, which is
a Junk Town.
There's a possible callback to Fallout, like the video game, because there's like a Junktown, post-apocalyptic nuclear whatever in Fallout called Junktown. So I don't know if that was possibly a call out to that, but
yeah, I don't know. Well, you got a character that is not my lovely in Junktown, and instead is actually my most punchable character, the freaking musician, dude. That musician, like, how dare he? He wants to trade his hard-earned 10,000 hour musical talent. It's got no value here, dude. Your 10,000 hours don't have value in this town. You can't come over to my house and play covers and then play originals. What are you
covers,
doing?
But I have a few originals, man.
No, I like the musician.
If I lived
it was funny.
If I lived in, I wouldn't call him the most punchable, because I think, Big D might get most punchable in my opinion. But
probably so.
I mean, if I was living in Junktown, I'd try to be selling my musical services everywhere that I could for anything. So I don't blame him.
That was so funny. The dude comes, it's like really, it just reminded me of RuneScape. Is that too nerdy for this podcast? I don't know.
You've already mentioned RuneScape enough, so I think we're beyond that point.
Okay. Well, it just reminded me of like going around being like, someone trying to scam you, or you being like, hey, I'm selling this armor. Back in the day, there wasn't a grand exchange, so you had to just straight up be like, selling a dragon plate body, seeing if people would, or I guess it wasn't chain body anyways. For the RuneScape fans, there wasn't a dragon plate body back in the day. There was a chain body. But anyways, and then you just had to happen, someone had to happen to be there that wanted that thing and would buy it from you. And a lot of times people would just be like, yeah, I'll buy it. Here's 5K. And you're like, dude, this is worth like 5 mil or something. And it kind of reminded me of that. The musician's just like, man, a crown would be nice. I can play some music for you.
I can play some music. It's the only thing I got. He's hustling. He's out there hustling. He's hustling. Man.
And I love musicians. My whole job is working in the music industry. So
yeah, you're in the music industry and in the side of the music industry to get people paid too.
Dog, we're all punchable. Everyone who loves music is punchable, in my opinion.
I'm going to put that as the lesson For my lesson this week is everybody who loves music is punchable.
We're all way too conceited and way too like, my taste in music is the right taste in music.
I try not to be that way.
That's another conversation.
It is another conversation. But yeah, I loved this episode just in general, man, because I feel like the callbacks were very nuanced. Because there was several of them that may have kind of slipped even the normal viewers, like even longtime viewers, like view of this episode. One of them that I read about, and I've seen this episode 100 times, is that the fact that when Simon Petrikov is got the bomb frozen above him, that you kind of see it's like a subway type thing, which is really cool because in Mortal Folly and Mortal Recoil, they go down into the subways, which is where the Lich's Well of Power is, which is where the bomb, ground zero. So this is like almost to a T where that same ground zero would have been. There was the call out to that subway scene, which I think was really cool. Another call out is obviously Choose Bruce. We get Choose Bruce in this episode. Yeah. So the Big D's mansion on the hill.
Great. Okay, what about the big mansion?
Oh, Big Mansion. It looks very similar, feels very similar to the mansion in the Creeps.
Oh, interesting.
Which I think, and then even the most obvious one is that the farm that Finn, his family's living in, is the barn that Lady Rainicorn lives in.
No, really?
Yeah, it's like the exact same one, and they do that on purpose.
Cool. I did not know that.
So there's lots of this call out to, yes, the Lich doesn't exist, but all these places, all these people, all these like sentient beings are still there.
There's still like a thread. There's still some sort of a thing that causes these places to still exist. Like some of the butterfly effects from the past are still there. Some things, despite the Lich not existing, still affect how the Earth ended up, which is really cool.
And it got me going, just looking at the callbacks to this one alone, this whole episode, more than the next one. And I think why this episode is a standalone decent episode. I don't know if it'll be my favorite of the season at all, but why it's a good standalone episode as part 2 of 3 of a series is that the theme of this one, I think, is very much about like fate and the inevitable and how those two kind of intertwine. Because you have the existence of Choose Bruce. You have Finn
the
having
inevitable. The farm, the mansion.
The mansion, the farm. Finn wishes away the kind of not the only evil, but like the ultimate evil in his universe. And like, you still have the Destiny Gang, like burning shit up that like you can't escape, chaos at the end of the day. That Finn's arm is, and I think that's the thread through the entire show is no matter what Finn's universe you see, and you see multiple Finns in multiple universes, that he will lose his arm. I'm just spoiling that. You probably already know that already. But that even in this lichless universe, he has a robotic arm. And so I think they're really getting into this episode. Hey, kind of the way that your universe plays out, there's a matter of fate about it. That Choose Bruce is still wheeling and dealing goods at the market, no matter what universe he's in.
Choose Bruce is still he's gonna give you that it's dangerous to go alone, take this moment, which I love that. Of course, here's a sword. You got it, dude. I needed something like that. And that's a really good point. It's so fascinating, the things that are similar. And I know they do them because it'll be more enjoyable for us to watch if we're like, oh my gosh, Choose Bruce and whatnot. Yeah. But it is really fascinating how that parallels with the concept of what you're saying. And Finn is still the hero. It still comes down to Finn at the end of the day. Finn still has to be the person to save this world or ruin it almost for really what's happening. And I guess if we're talking about next episode, Jake is the savior in a funny plot twist of a way. But Finn is the one who has to do something. He has to be the hero for his family or try to be.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is in other reality.
Yeah. Like his fate is to be a hero no matter what. And then another great, even like just obviousness that leads to this is that Jake is his dog in this episode.
Yeah.
In their real world, Finn got dropped off in the woods and Jake's parents picked him up. And he was raised by Jake's parents. So like, why would Jake be his dog in this universe? It's kind of like that universal fate. Like they were bound to be together by fate, no matter what, you know?
Yeah. And this
and even in a universe that didn't exist. Yeah.
In this reality, Jake is his dog, dude.
No,
is that lame? That might have been super lame. Anyways,
no, but it's. I just think there's like the cool aspects that, like, despite the Lich not existing, Simon's storyline with Marceline's the same. Finn's still the hero. He still has Jake as his like loyal sidekick. He still has a metal arm, and then that at the end of the day, like the bomb still drops. It's not. Doesn't create necessarily the Lich per se, because the Lich doesn't quote unquote exist. But it's kind of like impending that no matter like what your wish is, that like the universe is what's in control. Kind of.
You're never fully in control. Yeah.
And that's kind of the terrifying, but kind of the, you can take it as like the terrifying mentality, or you can take it as the, like, I'm just going with the flow of the universe kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But
it is such a great ending, Finn putting on the crown and kind of yelling. And I think you get to see his eyes change to blue. Maybe right at the end there. And it's just a really fantastic way to wrap up this and kind of tease you for what's to come the next week. I'm assuming people had to wait a whole week before the next episode came out, unless they released it like a 3-episode block or a 2-episode block.
We ended season 4, and I think people had to wait. They released season 5, I think 3 weeks after season 4 ended. So they did. I think they've released this one as a block between Finn the human and Jake the dog. It was that a 2-episode block.
Cool. Well, Finn, he really ends the episode like giving in to what Marceline was saying the whole time and saying like, I have no choice but to believe in magic and but to believe that this crown does have ice powers for some reason and can actually save me. And that's just so fascinating that like, despite living a life entirely away from magic and not seeing anything magical ever happen, he is given a situation where he has no other choice but to do something that he should have no reason for believing. Yeah. And it kind of, I mean, sort of doesn't save the day in the end because of it.
It doesn't because you get to you do get to the point where he froze himself in Barbar. And he froze his family, and none of them are affected by the bomb because they were frozen. So he did, in theory, save his family, right? But
Ned, I'm beefing with you, bud. I just want to let you know that. Me. Well, Barbar is my lovely, and you're over here hating on Barbar for some reason.
Is it just because Barbar was like tucked into the little bed at the beginning?
It was
because that was one of my like redeeming moments of.
Yeah, he's just part of the family. And I think the moment where he climbs a tree and Finn's just like, Barbar, what are you doing up in that tree? That moment is what got it for me. It's so funny that Jake in the next episode mistakes Barbar for himself and it's just like calls himself ugly. But I don't think Bartram is ugly. I think Bartram is part of the family. I love Bartram. I'm so glad Finn didn't sell Bartram or pawn him off. And, Bartram is going to live the rest of his life with Finn's family without Finn. And
in a chaotic wasteland of probably ice and snow. So,
which is kind of a shame.
Is he the new Gunter? Is Jake the new Gunter? If Finn does remain the Ice King forever?
Jake is the new Gunter for sure.
Okay.
He would have to be. But because Bartram's gone. Bartram's headed out, we see in the next episode with Finn's family. But I did want to say we had a special segment, Ned. We haven't gone to this segment in a long, long time. And I think we have time in this episode to do it this episode.
Oh, we do.
So I got talking to Allie and I noticed, the Destiny gang's a unique gang, right? They're looking all sorts of ways. They're kind of punk, kind of jerky. And I was just like, Allie, like, are they style icons? Do they work? Does that work what they're doing? And so we get a DJ Alley Cat's fashion corner this episode. It's been a while since we've done one of those.
Been maybe a while for that one.
Maybe 60 episodes. And that's what's great about all my segments is you just never know. They could come around at any moment.
Surprise segment with DJ Rusty.
the question is, are the D Gang style icons? Big D's got this mullet. He's got these crazy, very pointy. Everything about them is very angular, but he's got these very pointy kind of 80s sunglasses. So they're like 80s punk is the style that Ali was talking about, where it's the deconstruction of fashion. They're kind of using fashion in a way that is broken down and rough looking and whatnot. And obviously, we know what punk is, but it's altered garments worn incorrectly with a confrontational attitude, which is that's just the D Gang. The D Gang's got to do what the D Gang has to do, crown shorts is a great example of that. That's not how you wear a crown, but that's how the D Gang wears a crown. Really, that's how Big D wears a crown. And so, in Allie's eyes, I was like, well, are they style icons? No, they're not style icons, unfortunately. For some people, maybe. For her, not at all. She's not punk. I think we all know this.
We know this.
Yeah, but they are doing punk right in a fashion sense, but not necessarily their personalities, in Allie's opinion. So I thought that was very, very fascinating. It's been a while since we've done an Alley Cat's Fashion Corner.
Alley Cat's Fashion Corner.
Alley Cat's Fashion Corner. Anyways.
No, I like that. I think it's a good thing to point out that I read, beyond just them being called the Destiny Gang, that they were called that because if you ran across them or if they ran across you, they could mess you up and determine your destiny. So your destiny by running across them was that they would decide your destiny. I was like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of badass, but also very culty in a way with the way that his followers kind of follow him.
Yeah, and they were chanting "Destiny, Destiny" while they burned down Finn's house. Right, like, that's kind of creepy.
For no reason except for the fact that they were like the Joker style anarchists of this universe of like, we just want to watch the world burn. We have nothing to gain from this besides the fact that we like the power to control the narrative of what will happen next. And that's
I don't know if it's like Deadpool. Gain. I don't know if it's like Deadpool, but Big D definitely beats Finn to the house, which makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. And he calls himself out on the plot hole.
And he's like, how did I even get here?
He's like, I get it. This makes no sense, but I'm here right now and I beat you.
I said, my tops of the episode was Prismo's nasty jazz.
Okay.
But that was definitely secondary tops was when he's like, hey bro, how did I even get here?
It's good, man. Well, what's your lesson from this episode? I know you learned something earlier in this episode, but
my first lesson, everyone who loves music is punchable was what I learned just sitting with you here today.
You heard it first.
My other lessons, crown shorts are lame. In my opinion, that's my lesson.
Okay.
For some reason, having a pointy nose makes you creepier.
Yeah.
And
I agree. Not really.
And also, I would say the kind of monkey paw lesson. Every wish can have its downside, even if it's made with good intentions.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I'll say, Ned. I mean, Sid, I think, is the bully from the show Doug, has a very, very pointy green nose.
His name's Roger.
Roger? Is it not Sid?
Sid, the bully from Toy Story.
You're right. Does Sid from Toy Story have a pointed nose? That's what we need to know. No, he has a round nose.
Pointy.
He's got a massive Jimmy Neutron-esque forehead, though.
Yeah, he definitely
I've never
has
noticed that.
The white supremacist look about him. Which kind of makes him look evil anyway.
Yeah, Sid definitely looks evil. Are you sure his name is Roger?
I would bet my life on it right now.
Man, I'm looking it up.
The green guy with the orange hair and the leather jacket from Doug.
Roger M. Klotz. Yeah. Dang. Okay.
Bro, I watched a lot of Doug growing up.
Doug is so good. Sometimes I just get that theme song in my head, just randomly.
Talk about bangers from like old TV shows, like the Doug theme song. Man, that was a absolute banger.
My lesson, Ned, is to stay away from Big D. He's got it, lesson. Man. The Big D. You gotta if you ever hear Big D coming, get out of there. Ever see Big D? Just get out of there.
I like that lesson. That's the only lesson?
That's my only lesson. Yeah.
Only lesson. No worries, man. No worries. But all around, man, this is I think a great way to start off season 5. Same with kind of how we started off season 4. It's not the best episode. It's not going to be, you're not going to be like, it's a good continuation. I'm very glad we have a part 3 coming up.
Yeah, I liked it.
And the way that this series is wrapped up with this 3-parter is, I think, again, one of the best 3. If you wanted to start Adventure Time, you start on the last episode of season 4, and you can pretty much go forward. You lose a lot of context, but things like it feels a lot more on pace after this series goes. You know what I mean?
Cool. And I mean, I am very excited. Season 4 definitely got me really pumped about Adventure Time, and I imagine it's just going to keep going from there. So
yeah, we get one more episode, and then we get some Graybles, and it's a better Graybles than last time, and then we just kind of keep rolling, which is good.
Yeah, I just want to know what the lesson is. Last time it was the senses, or what the common theme is with the Graybles.
This one will frustrate you even more than the last one.
Yeah, the other one was stretching, dog. It was way out
this one
there.
is a stretch, and they literally call out like, "Oh, you think it was this lesson because that's the obvious one?" And he's like, "No, it's this lesson." Like
that's great.
It drives you crazy on purpose. But
we'll
great. Talk about that in 2 weeks. I want to know your recommendation for kicking the season off.
Dude, my rec. All right. Well, we were out hanging out with some friends the other night, and we went and saw Barbie. And
this works so well with my recommendation.
Yeah. Oh no,
my recommendation is Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Okay.
Damn it.
That's great.
Are we basic?
Well, I haven't seen that one yet. I really want to see that movie, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Well, I want to know your thoughts on Barbie and why it's your rec.
Have you seen Barbie?
I have not yet. So that's on that's on my list coming up soon.
Dude, Barbie's just fun.
Just fun.
I just enjoyed it. It's a good adventure. You know, I think people are so caught up in trying to be controversial with whatever they're saying, whether they're criticizing or they're pro Barbie, and it's all about the concept.
It got politicized. I heard it got politicized immediately.
Yeah, but that just, I mean, one, I think a lot of these people are missing the actual lesson. If you watch Barbie, there's a deeper meaning where it's like, hey, we all struggle. Like, there's struggles on both sides, and like Ken didn't have it great, like really best when he thought he did, and Barbie didn't have it really best when she thought she did. And then they both kind of choose a struggle in the end. And there's a lot going on other than just like, whatever, the stupid arguments that people want to just go viral for on YouTube for. But what I would say is Barbie is super fun. If you go in with just an open mind and you're just like, I'm just going to have a good time and really enjoy what's going on in this movie, you're going to really enjoy it. It's super fun. Mm-hmm. Ryan Gosling, I never thought, I mean, I've never seen a Ryan Gosling movie, maybe. I don't know.
What? But you never seen Once Upon a Time, or not Once Upon a Time, La La Land?
No, never have.
Oh, go. I mean, if you love music, dude, you need to go watch La La Land. And Ryan Gosling kills it in that role without being like Notebook level douchebag Ryan Gosling.
Well, dude, I haven't seen The Notebook, but I gotta say he really, really crushes it. And I did not expect to absolutely love Ken, and he is so dang good in this movie. I mean, Margot
Robbie.
Robbie is incredible too, right? She does a really good job. She looks like Barbie. She's Barbie, which is great. But I just didn't expect Ken to be such a winner, and he is such a winner. And there's a song at the end of the movie. I think it's called "I'm Just Ken," and it's great. And I know this is old news. We're over Barbie at this point when this podcast comes out, but
it's going to be well released. But
I really enjoyed it.
It's the same.
Oppenheimer is yours.
Same coin, different side of that is that Oppenheimer is not a fun movie at all, but it is super long. It's filled with dialogue, but like, oh my gosh, was it filmed great? Yes, that's what everybody's talking about. I left going kind of like understanding our world, the way it is with war and conflict. And the fact that this is the series of events that like literally created the world that we live in today. It is an incredibly, of course it's probably dramatized. Of course it's probably not 100% factually accurate, but just understanding the amount of complexity that it took for, again, like quantum theory to come to America. And that like Oppenheimer was one of the ones that brought quantum theory from the UK to be like studied and put into university in the US. And then like essentially being tasked with like, can we do this? Is this a possibility to create a weapon based on these quantum theories that you've created? They set out to do it. And kind of the intention of it was to like, yeah, if we prove that humanity can blow the world to smithereens, then there won't be war anymore, because people will be like, no, we can't do war. Like, we'll blow ourselves up. So like, why do war anymore? And like Oppenheimer's kind of goal with creating the first like test bomb to show that it could be done. And then obviously in theory, like they dropped them on in Japan, and he's very, that happens. And he's like, oh shit, like this,
super distraught, I'm sure.
Yeah. He was distraught about it. And then the fact that as soon as they did that, the government comes back and he's like, they're like, okay, can we make bigger bombs? And he's like, what the fuck? Like, we were supposed to do this so we never had to do this again.
Be done. Yeah.
And that's kind of the way spoilers, but the way that movie ends is like, he's just very...
Well, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
And no, trust me, that
sure
won't
he
spoil
just feels
it.
like death, right? I'm sure he just feels like
and he got super famous off of it. And then he turns around and he starts like litigating against any countries holding nuclear weapons. He's just like, fuck that. Like, that's not what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, he turns into the dude from Jurassic Park who's just like, you were so concerned with whether you could do something. You didn't stop to think if you should do it.
Yeah, it's exactly. It is for sure probably what like was some of the inspiration behind Jurassic Park is. It's like the could versus should mentality. So that's as much as I'll rant about that without doing a whole separate podcast. But
I hear in that movie in Oppenheimer, the lich comes out at the end of that.
The bomb comes out, and then there's a green glowing lich that just kind of fades into the New Mexico
weren't in
desert.
Japan. I don't know. No, that didn't happen. That's not real.
That didn't happen. It's not real.
Thank y'all so much.
What a great start to season 5.
Yeah, I'm really excited, man. Season 5. I know it looks like there's 10 seasons of this show, and then we got some other things going on. I mean, what is it? The mini series, and then there's a series coming up that we might have to talk about on the podcast when it's coming out.
We've got
Cake.
Yeah, we've got Fiona and Cake. We've got, at any point in time, if we need to pause and do Distant Lands, I think we'll get far enough along in the show, probably after season 5 or in season 6, where if we did want to stop and do Distant Lands, we could do it. And it wouldn't,
I think if it makes sense in the timeline, we should. Once it makes sense timeline where I'm not going to have anything big spoiled, I think that could be a good way to break up a season.
Yeah. I would say only bad thing is that like Adventure Time has probably one of the best like end of like real series episodes I've ever seen. But then Distant Lands gives you the kind of what you wanted out of the finale.
So maybe
it kind of gives you a second finale, kind of.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't then.
So yeah, that's why I was like, maybe not. But we will, I think, stop when it comes out and maybe spurt it into season 5 when Fiona and Cake starts to come out. We'll have to kind of maybe pause and do.
I think so.
Fiona and Cake as it's coming out real time for sure.
Yeah, I think it would be dumb not to. But you know what you can be really excited about, listeners, travelers, is that there's going to be an opportunity coming up here pretty soon. We don't have a date for it yet, but as you know, we're going to do a Patreon. There's going to be a second podcast that you will be able to listen to on the Patreon. That's going to be NEA and Beyond, which will be us talking about probably Adventure Time, even more different. We'll probably go back to season 1. I was just thinking, man, we could go back and watch the first episode from season 1 and I could bring a whole new perspective to it, which could be fun. But we're going to talk about other things other than just Adventure Time, other shows that we love, and it'll be a little bit more free form, I imagine, than this podcast is. Well,
I think it's going to have to include segments, mini episodes called Shoot the Shit, which is pretty much what me and Russell talk about for the first 10, 15 minutes before we even start our podcast, which is catching up and real life stuff.
Which may be the true NEA and Beyond in a way, even though, those episodes may not be called that. But regardless, if you join the Patreon, which we'll have soon, you'll be able to get that. We'll do like monthly newsletters And hopefully, I'm going to try and set it up. We need to talk about this, Ned, but if there's a way we can do stickers for people that subscribe that are of the new NEA and Beyond logo that Ali designed, which is totally freaking awesome for those podcast episodes. And we'll talk about that.
We can get with some deep cut merch and have little buttons that say like, I'm this week's lovely, something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll talk about it, but we'll figure it out and we'll give you all a launch date once we have that. And so, yeah, just get excited for that. We got a lot of fun stuff going on with the Adventure Time world and then also with the podcast. So if you need something in the meantime, you can check us out on Instagram at Neverending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Neverending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast. Email us your thoughts, your opinions. It's season 5, y'all. Get on the Traveler's Log at NEA.travelerslog@gmail.com. And yeah, we got YouTube and stuff. We haven't put anything out on it in a while other than the episodes. If you'd rather listen on YouTube, you can. But anyways, thank you so much, everybody. I've been Russell, one of your co-hosts. And I don't know. How do I end these episodes?
It's been so long since season 4.
It's been so long since season 4. I've got a different ending for you.
Oh, I don't like this ending. Don't do this.
Every episode from here on out.
No, we're going to lose all the listeners.
Party forever.
Oh, don't you guys?